Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Carrie. I'm back. It's been a while. I know, I keep saying this, I keep doing this. What is wrong with me? I've had a lot going on. Let's go ahead and do a quick life update. So I adopted a dog. I didn't mean to. So I was checking the mail with my little dog Daisy. She does everything with me. She's my angel. And so I was just going out to check the mail, and here comes this giant dog, like walking up to me. She's super friendly, nice to my little dog, and she immediately sees me and she rolls over and wants me to pet her belly. And right then and there, I fell in love with her. She had no tag on, she had fleas all over her, and I looked everywhere for her owners. I went on Facebook, I went on Nextdoor app, I went and did everything I possibly could to find her owners, and then I even contacted my local shelter, and I had her on a 5-day stray hold. So I actually sent her to the shelter for 5 days, and nobody came and found her or collected her. And so at the end of those 5 days, I went ahead and I adopted her. We had her spayed, and then she got really sick. She got kennel cough, and I spent about a week just like nursing her back because she was, on top of being spayed, she had all of her shots done. She was heartworm tested. I mean, whenever we take care of our dogs, like we do everything in our power to make sure that they're as healthy and can stay with us as long as possible. She is a pit bull mix, so she is a very big girl. She's like 45 pounds. We named her Lucy, my mom did, and her reasoning is for 2 reasons. One is Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, which is one of her favorite Beatles songs, and then also she loves I Love Lucy, and so we named her Lucy. And she is actually back here sleeping behind me, but I'm not gonna wake her up. She's passed out asleep. So other than taking care of Lucy, I have been working like crazy. I'm still taking care of my disabled mom full time, and my life's been kind of hectic. I haven't really had a chance to read as much as I normally do. And on top of that, I've been in such a giant reading slump. Like, it's literally been since May that I've been in this reading slump. I'm just not reading as much as I normally am. I don't know what's going on with me. I'm trying to fight my way through it. I'm still reading, but I'm just not reading like I have been for the last couple of years. So you're going to be seeing a lot of reading updates. I have chosen today to just go on and take the entire day, and we're just going to film some videos. I am so backlisted on doing videos. It's just not even funny. I think the last video wrap up that I did was for March, which is just, I'm so sorry. Like, I know I haven't been posting like I should be, and I'm so sorry about that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do my April wrap up in today's video. I am going to be posting a ton of wrap up videos. I'm going to get caught up. We're doing it. We're going to get there. You're going to see videos coming in the next coming weeks. It's going to be more scheduled. It's going to be more centered. I've got different recommendation videos coming for you guys. It's going to happen. I promise. I'm going to get better at this. Bear with me. Bear with the procrastination, and bear with the just insane amount of stuff that I've been dealing with. I'm so sorry I'm not posting. It's going to get better. I promise. All right. Enough going on and rambling. Let's go ahead and get to my April wrap up. The month of April was by far my best reading month in the last like 6 months. I read 20 books, and I did really well. Now, 6 of those books were all by the same author. It's all in the same series. So I'm going to start with the series books that I've read first. 6 of them I read were in the Protector series by Teresa Gableman. This is a vampire paranormal romance kind of series. I'm really not going to go into detail about the books that I read because they are way far down in the series, and really there's just no point. Most of you have not read this series. It's just something that I've become obsessed with and really love. They're very quick, easy, fast books to listen to on audio and or read, and they're all on Kindle Unlimited. You can usually get them. I got the audiobooks through my library, and I just kind of blew through them. So I read Victor, Tessa, A Warrior Christmas, Bishop, Pam, in Charge, and those are all the books that I read in the Protector series. I will say that I really love this one. It's kind of a rom-com Protectors, so it's similar to J.R. Ward in that there are these big warrior protector vampires, but it's more of a rom-com-y, laugh out loud. It's not as well written as J.R. Ward's books are, but it's really, really fun, and they're super easy to get through. They're like between 200 and 300 pages. I will say that the longer the series is going, kind of the less my star reviews are going. The next series that I read in April is going to be the Bellamy Creek series. This is Make Me Yours, which is book number 2. It is by far my favorite book out of all 3 of them. This one is about Cole and Cheyenne. So Cole has lived next to Cheyenne her whole life. He's best friends with her older brother. She's always had a crush on him. He is now a single father. His wife died in childbirth, I believe. And so she's always had this kind of like unrequited crush on him, and he's been kind of oblivious. They have this really slow burn friends to lovers build up, and that's normally not my favorite trope. But I loved this book so freaking much. I just related so well to these characters. I loved the storyline. I loved the writing. Everything just kind of fell in place. This series is one of my favorites. I read several by Melanie Harlow, but none of them kind of hit like this series for me, and especially this book. The other 2 books in the series that I read in April are going to be Drive Me Wild, which is book number 1. This is about Griffin and Blair. Griffin is kind of the town mechanic. He is Cheyenne's brother, who's in book number 2. And Griffin is kind of like this small town grumpy hero. He meets Blair because she is kind of like this debutante, kind of wealthier class family. She is trying to get away from her parents, and she sees this sign in town for like the best pie, and so she says, oh my gosh, I have to stop there, just kind of like fate. And she ends up blowing out her tire or something in the middle of town, and he sees her, and it's kind of like this super cute, meet cute sort of situation, and it's like a forced proximity because he's letting her stay with him until he fixes up her car. It's kind of a slow burn, like friends to lovers kind of situation again. It was really cute. I really enjoyed this one. It was by far my second favorite in the series. And the last book that I read in the series is book number 3, which is Call Me Crazy. This one is about Enzo and Bianca, and they are enemies to lovers. So they've known each other for a long time. They were forced to go to prom together. And Bianca has always kind of liked Enzo, but she has always thought that he didn't like her. He always thought she was kind of stuck up. And so they have like this banter. They're both realtors, and so they're always kind of fighting over like the houses and everything. And she is really wanting a kid. He is like being forced to be married by the time he's 35, or else he doesn't get to take over his family's business, that kind of situation. And so they decide to get into this fake dating arrangement. Some parts just didn't quite make me believe it. It was very, very unbelievable, but I still had a really good time reading it, and I would still recommend it. And the last kind of series book that I just want to touch on is going to be Just a Bit Ruthless, which is, I think, book number 5 or 6 in the Straight Guy series. This is kind of a gay for you book. It's a very niche kind of thing. A lot of people aren't going to enjoy this one. I personally enjoyed it. It was good. It's about a guy who is very openly gay among his group of friends who are already kind of matched up together. And he really wants to be in a relationship. He is kind of forced by his father to kind of hold in his gay, if you will. Like, he's kind of closeted. He has to dress in more masculine clothes. And he goes overseas trying to show his dad that he can be this big macho man and make these big business decisions, and he gets kidnapped, and it's kind of a captor-captive romance. It's very unbelievable. It's very ridiculous. But was it hot? Yeah, I mean, it was. The next in a series that I have already read, or in the middle of a series, is going to be Midnight Mass. This is by Sierra Simone. This is a continuation of Priest, which is book number 1. And this is kind of a novella continuation of their story. They are now together. They're married. I believe they're married. And yet they're trying to have children. And it is trigger warnings for it being very, very hard to have a child in this book, and also for miscarriage. So I loved it. I love the continuation with their story. I gave it 5 stars. I love the series so much. It's not for everybody. Book number 1 is about a priest who falls in love with a girl who goes to his congregation, church, whatever. She goes into confession, and they sleep all over the altar. So, you know, it could be offensive to some people. I personally just found it very, very hot. But anyway, I really enjoyed this one. Cannot wait to continue on with the next book in the series. The next books that I'm going to talk about are either the first in a series and or they're standalones. And the first one I'm going to talk about is Stuck Up Suit. This is by Vi Keelan and Penelope Ward. This book is not very realistic. It is about a CEO, millionaire kind of businessman. He is on a train to his job. His car is being serviced, so he's having to take a train. And while on the train, he's answering these calls, and he's kind of being a prick to the people he's on the other line with. And so this girl notices him because 1, he's gorgeous, and 2, he's being a complete and total dick. And so she sees him drop his phone, and he gets off the train and doesn't realize he doesn't have his phone with him. She picks his phone up, and she's trying to be nice and find out who he is so she can give it back to him. And she also happens to be snooping through it because why not? And she finds out who he is, and she tries to give it back to him, and he refuses to see her. And so she decides to be angry with him because he's being such a dick, and she takes pictures of herself, I believe topless or something. Anyway, that's how they're meet cute. He finds these pictures, and he's like, wow, she's hot. I mean, she doesn't show her face, just, you know, her chest or ass or something. Anyway, she takes pictures of certain body parts and gives it to him, and he starts to text her back because she left her number in there in his phone, and that's how their meet cute story happens. And it's a bit unrealistic. There is a kid situation, I believe, that happens in this book. I'm pretty sure that he finds out that he's a father or something. Yes, he finds out he's a father in this. So there is like a surprise child aspect in it. I enjoyed it. It was a really, really quick listen to. I listened to the audiobook all in one day. I highly, highly recommend this audiobook. It is just a super light, fun, fluffy read. Not very realistic, but if you're wanting kind of a palate cleanse or just something kind of simple and fun to read in between like heavier stuff or different books, this was a kind of light, fun, rom-com-y book that I would suggest. The next book that I have to talk about is going to be The Pickup. This is by Nikki Ash, and I loved this book. I gave it 5 stars. It's not going to be for everybody though. So I'm going to straight up tell you this entire book is a surprise pregnancy trope. It is from the very get-go, the very beginning, and that is the main plot throughout this story. If you do not like surprise pregnancy, you're not going to like this book. It is a sports romance. The main guy is an NFL player, meets this girl. Girl ends up being somebody's close to him, their daughter, and not really going to give much away because I really don't want to do major surprises in this book. I'm just going to say it's a big surprise pregnancy trope. This guy ends up being a really good guy. I ended up really enjoying this book a lot, and I would recommend if you're into surprise pregnancy books. The next book that I read was Prisoner. This is by Skye Warren. And this is about Grayson and Abby, and I gave this book 4.5 stars, but it was really kind of hard to get through at times. It is a captor-captive kind of romance. So Abby is teaching a class in the prison, an English class. She is in college herself, but she's kind of in a program where she has to do some kind of a dissertation or do some kind of a class to be able to get the grade. So she's teaching this class in a prison, and she's not comfortable with it. She is super, electrically charged kind of connection with one of these prisoners who is obviously not such a good guy. But she ends up, over time, she ends up really enjoying this class and these guys, and she thinks she's doing a really good thing for them, kind of getting their stories out there. And so she gets their stories out in this kind of open public kind of forum, and she realizes that she's being played, that these stories these guys are writing, at least one of them was a way to escape prison. And he gets out, and not only does he get out, but he sees her, and she's leaving the prison right as he's getting out, so he takes her as a captive. She ends up falling in love with him along the way, but it is not an easy road. It was really good. It's pretty dark. I enjoyed it. The next book I read is The Babysitter, and this one is kind of a true story, true crime kind of book. It's about Liza Rodman, who was this little girl in the 1960s, I believe, and she was living with her mom. Her mom's kind of a shit human being who didn't really ever take care of her, and her and her little sister were just kind of meant to fend for themselves. They just had all of these people would watch them. Anyway, long story short, Tony Costa, who ends up being a serial killer, basically babysat her and took her to his secret garden, which was where all these dead bodies were later found. It was interesting, but I did feel like it was a tiny bit romanticizing Tony, and not so much telling the victim's stories as much as I would really have liked. She had a crush on Tony as a kid, and so it was a little more romanticized than I would have really wanted this book to be. I gave it a 3-star. It was okay. The next book I read is Just for a Little While. This is by Fiona Cole. It is her short story that she came out with, I believe, this year. And it's kind of a taboo novel. It's about this guy who she called Uncle Willem. I believe it's Willem. Yeah, it's Willem and Arabella. I think they called her Bella for short. But Willem was this guy who was her father's stepbrother, and so there's no relationship between them. They didn't really have a close relationship growing up or anything, but she's staying with him because she's going to college. Her parents are making her go to college. He's also a professor, and he is also her professor. So it is kind of a taboo story. It just didn't have the spark and the heat that I'm used to Fiona Cole's books having, and also that emotional connection. So her Voyeur series is such a perfect example of books that are super hot, super spicy, but also they have this emotional undertone connection where you really connect and relate to the characters. And this book just didn't. I don't know if it was just so short that you didn't really catch that, or what's going on, but I just didn't connect as much as I wanted to with these characters. I gave it 3.5 stars. It was okay. It's just not something that I would recommend of Fiona Cole's if I had to recommend a book by her. I also read Him by L.L. Ash. This is another taboo. It is a best friend's father romance, and I've heard about this for years and years and years. It's been on my TBR list for a very long time. And I think had I read this before I read, say, Birthday Girl or The Doctor or something like that, I think I would have liked it better. But because I have read so many of these tropes now, it was just okay. I gave it 4 stars. I did enjoy it. So it is about a couple of girls who are going off to college in a different state, and one of the girls' fathers, they're staying with him so they can go to college and save money since their college is right next to his house. He's kind of a younger father, good-looking guy. And then the daughter ends up getting into a sorority and just like leaves her best friend with her father and like just disappears and goes off and does her own thing. And the 2 people get closer and closer together and they fall in love. I enjoyed it. It's not like I disliked it. I just think that Birthday Girl is kind of a better version of that trope, or not. It's not like a perfect trope. What in the world? Hi. Did you wake up? Sorry about that. My dog decided to sound super odd. This is Lucy. She decided to wake up and say hello. So, I don't know if you can see her real well, but this is my Lucy Goose. Come here, Lucy Goose. Come here and say hello while you can. Come here and say hello. Say hi, everybody. My name's Lucy. I'm a good girl. Yeah. Anyway, sorry for that interruption. So, here's Lucy. So, I still wouldn't say that it's worth the read. It's just not quite as good as Birthday Girl or some of the older age gap taboo romances out there. But it's still good. So the last book that I have to talk about is going to be Forget Me Not. This is about Bennett and Livy, and so Livy at the very beginning of this book is rushing to the hospital because she gets a call about her soon-to-be ex-husband. He's been in this major car crash, and it is her husband's best friend that gives her a call. He's also a physician. So she gets to the hospital, and he's just waking up. Her ex-husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, is just waking up, and he wakes up and he's automatically like asking for her to like hold his hand and is calling her her pet name and all of this stuff, and she's like, what in the world is happening? And he thinks that they're perfectly fine. Like, he has amnesia. He totally thinks that their world is fine, that they're happily in love, and she's just like, what is going on here? He has cheated, so there's big trigger warnings for cheating in this book. My issue, I love this book. I loved the first like 70%, but then you start finding out about Bennett and his cheating ways, and that the major issue I had with this one, I gave it 3.5 stars, and that's because to me, the whole book is about how their story is like a once-in-a-lifetime love story. Like, it is just so beautiful, and so like he knew that she was the one person for him from the moment he met her. Like, that was his person. So for him to not only cheat on her, which I understood part of the reason why the cheating, like, it was a situation where he wasn't necessarily in his right state of mind. They were grieving, they were going through some really pretty horrific things, and he had a moment of weakness in a altered state of mind. I got that, okay? Like, if it had just been that one time, it would have been a 5-star read for me. I had a major issue with this book because that same guy cheated with the same girl that he cheated on her the first time over and over and over again. It literally made no sense to me, and it just kind of ruined the book for me. But the book is still beautiful, and I would still recommend it. I know that makes no sense. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I would say to read it yourself, make up your own mind, and then let me know in the comments below if you agree with me or disagree with me. And in fact, this is kind of the end of all of the books that I have to talk about. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I have not filmed a video in a while. I'm kind of all over the place. I apologize. But Have you read any of these books that I've talked about for the month of April? Let me know in the comments below if you agree or disagree with anything that I've had to say. I would love to discuss any of these books down in the comments below. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you on the next video.